Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed colleagues, good morning. Welcome to the NATO Defense Pledge Conference 2022, co-hosted by Italy and the United States of America with the support of NATO. I hope you have had a good evening in Rome for those who have arrived yesterday and enjoyed safe travels. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Laura Carpini. I'm the head of the Cyber Digital Division of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, and I will be your Master of Ceremonies for today. As such, I will accompany you through the program of the day, which is quite dense and therefore has to be fast-paced. Please note that most sessions are restricted, as it is clearly indicated in the program that you have received with your folders. And if you have, if you need additional copies, those can be found outside of the room. You will have noticed that there is no Wi-Fi access, as clearly indicated before reaching the room, and we thank you all for having left your electronic devices and mobile phones outside the room. Our young diplomatic colleagues that I wish to warmly welcome will be helping to make communications with the world outside a little smoother, and do not hesitate to ask them should you have any questions. Also, please note that this morning, welcoming addresses, as well as Secretary General Stoltenberg's intervention later, will be streamed. You will therefore see cameras lit only on those occasions. I think I have given you the necessary information for now, and welcoming you all again and thanking you for having attended in such large numbers and high qualified level of attendance. I would like, without further ado, to call to the podium the Honorable Emondo Cirielli, the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of Italy, for his keynote address. Please, Honorable Deputy Minister, the floor is yours.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Excellencies, the permanent representatives to the Atlantic Council, civil and military authorities and delegates, very distinguished guests, dear friends, I'm delighted to welcome all of you to Rome, and in particular to La Farnesina, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, for this fourth NATO Cyber Defense Pledge Conference that Italy is proudly co-hosting with the United States with the support of NATO. I also convey a special welcome to our Finnish and Swedish strong partners, and very soon, as we hope, fully fledged allies. Rather than dividing or weakening us, Russia unprovoked and shameful aggression against Ukraine in blatant violation of the Charter of the United Nations and international law, has united us even more. Italy is contributing to NATO's enhanced deterrence and defense posture with a 360-degree approach that includes the cyber domain. The conflict in Ukraine is a war of attrition, reminding us of World War I, but at the same time is an example of the 21st century battlefield. We see trenches, but we also see the hacking by a set to disrupt Ukrainian military communication. NATO is pivoting the digitalization of military affairs. It is preparing the integration of artificial intelligence consideration and technologies into doctrines, tactics, techniques, and procedures. AI is an all-purpose technology enabling a new generation of automation and enhanced decision maker. We are determined to defend, maintain, and foster the technological advantage that allows us to guide this process and to promote the global upholding of strong value-based rules of behavior. At the same time, our surface of attack is growing exponentially. Cyberspace is increasingly contested and disrupted, and we are confronted with the highly sophisticated threats stemming from states and not states alike. Critical infrastructure have become a preferred target for the potential damage the attacks may inflict to our stability, growth and democratic processes, and in short, to our way of life. I believe this topic could not be more timely, and I salute the initiative to center today's pledge conference around this key issue. Today's conference takes place 1.5 years after our last meeting organized by Estonia in virtual format in 2021, and 3 years after the last in-person meeting in UK. The 6 years since 2016 were particularly dense and important for cyber and tech developments. For all these reasons, the commitment we made in 2016 is more vital and needed than ever. And again, we are happy to host you together with our US ally, to renew it with greater impetus. The pledge is a brilliant tool that has provided us with references, stimulus, guidance, and knowledge while we strive in our efforts to consolidate and renew our national cybersecurity architecture and strategy. I'm sure that during the debate you will appreciate how the pledge, together with the other normative and policy references, has been instrumental to improve our resilience. Cyber is a team sport, and at NATO, we know that it's good to have friends. The cyber threat is intrinsically asymmetric, and we therefore need to team up in this contest domain and defend together in times of crisis. We anticipate that the new tools will be discussed today to promote more integration of our cyber capabilities to mitigate this asymmetry. When I think about the pledge, my mind goes to those medieval architects who used to call the factory everything that belonged to the construction and maintenance of cathedral or important civil buildings. The pledge is such a factory, continuous work of different competencies, minds, and tools that come together to jointly shape our cyber defense. I want to stress the word continuous and the complexity of this effort. Continuous because tech developments don't stop, and we do not want them to stop. That's why we will need to constantly assess, adapt, and renew the pledge to make it fit for future scenarios at the speed of relevance. Complexity because, just like in factories of the Middle Age, different levels, actors, materials, competencies, skills, and capabilities will have to be harmonized while respecting some difference. One interesting way to harness complexity could reside in our ability to create virtuous processes between, first, Allied and NATO in two-way learning and assistance process. Second, for many allies like Italy, EU and NATO in particular, standardization, regulation process on one side and the NATO pledge processes on the other should mutually reinforce each other for the benefit of all. Third, civil and military cooperation both within NATO at the national level. Fourth, between public and private sectors. Fifth, between the human element, the skilled workforce, and emerging and disruptive technologies. Sixth, between national cyber expenditure and the NATO defense investment pledge. I'm convinced that these and many more topics will be analyzed and discussed today with a view to devising future approaches and developments that are so crucial for our collective defense. As one of the original signatories of the North Atlantic Pact, Italy is rock solid in its steady and relentless commitment to the alliance and to its goals. Therefore, I'm particularly glad to have the opportunity to address this event as one of my first acts as the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs. Finally, I wish to thank the NATO Secretariat and our American colleagues for their support in this joint effort. The Italy-US partnership is tremendously strong. I look forward to working together to consolidate our deep-rooted and fraternal bilateral ties. I wish you a fruitful deliberation and thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you, Honourable Deputy Minister, for your keynote address and for having already partly set the tone of the conference. It is now my pleasure and honor to give the floor to the Deputy National Security Advisor for Cyber and Emerging Technology, Anne Neuberger, at the White House. Thank you. The floor is yours. Perhaps the mic, yes. You should press perhaps with 2 fingers. Yes.
Thank you. Technical products always need human assistance. Yes. Good morning, everyone. Buongiorno. Thank you for being with us here in Rome to discuss this important topic. The United States is very happy to co-host the 2022 Cyber Defense Pledge Conference with our colleagues in Italy, and what more beautiful city to do so than in Rome. As Minister Cirielli noted, we are here to discuss the 21st century battlefield and the future of cyber cooperation at NATO. NATO is a bulwark of the international order. 73 years ago, 12 allies came together, ravaged by 2 world wars, and committed themselves to collective defense. A lot has changed in the world since the North Atlantic Treaty was signed on April 14, 1949. The threats we face have evolved, and NATO has evolved as well. As the US National Security Strategy states, however, today NATO is stronger and more united than it has ever been before. We have maintained an open door and grown our ranks to 30 countries, and we look forward to welcoming 2 more allies, Finland and Sweden, in the near future. I will note the words of President Truman on that April day when NATO was first founded. It is altogether appropriate that nations so committed and so deeply conscious of their common interests should join in expressing their determination to preserve their present peaceful situation and to protect it in the future. What we are about to do here is a neighborly act. And that is why we are here today, why we continue to reaffirm the importance of NATO day after day, NAC after NAC, summit after summit. As the world changes, NATO remains vital. Truman went on, with our common traditions, we face common problems, and we face the problem of mastering the forces of modern technology in the public interest. NATO has consistently evolved to face these forces of modern technology. Indeed, in 2016, our leaders came together and committed to ensure, and I quote, the alliance keeps pace with the fast-evolving cyber threat landscape, and that our nations will be capable of defending themselves in cyberspace as they do in air, on land, and on sea. This is why we are here today, to discuss how we carry forward the commitment made in 2016, hearkening back to the one made in 1949. The United States' commitment to NATO remains ironclad, and that means ensuring we are preparing the alliance to face modern threats. The Madrid summit indeed made that commitment. This year, as the minister noted, has reminded us not only of the importance and enduring strength of NATO, but also of the role cybersecurity, preparedness, and partnership play in modern conflict. Through his brutal war in Ukraine, Putin sought to split NATO, but thanks to our close work around this table, he will get exactly the opposite: a more unified NATO, stronger defenses, and a more resolute transatlantic community. We have seen in Ukraine the importance of preparedness and strengthening our cyber defenses before attack. Ukraine has in many cases been able to successfully defend against sophisticated cyber attacks due to the work that was done before the Russian invasion this past February. Ukraine took to heart the lessons it learned in 2014 about the power of cyber attacks in modern conflict. Through partnerships with many of the countries in the room, as well as with the private sector, Ukraine has been able to continue to improve its cyber capability, and the world has been reminded of the importance of standing in support of partners when they are victims of cyber attacks. The new NATO strategic concept, endorsed at the Madrid summit in June, affirmed that allies will do more to strengthen NATO against both traditional and emerging threats. The strategic concept sees the world as it is. It recognizes the threats competitors face, challenging the rules-based order and the very notions of state sovereignty and territorial integrity. And it brings the alliance firmly into the modern age by recognizing that transnational threats require new tools and partnerships, including against cyber threats. That is why we are so pleased to be here at the Cyber Defense Pledge Conference, representing the United States with my colleagues, Ambassador Julie Smith and Ambassador-at-Large Nate Fick. The Cyber Defense Pledge is how we deliver on this commitment. As part of the pledge, we are developing national cyber capabilities so that we are more secure as an alliance. And this summer, as an alliance, we committed to developing a NATO capability to more effectively enable allies to help other allies in their times of need. We all have a responsibility to build national cyber defenses, but the reality is that in some cases that may not be sufficient. And just as NATO is prepared to respond to kinetic crises our allies face, we must also be prepared to respond to cyber crises. We saw the importance of this over the summer in Albania, when Iranian state actors launched destructive cyber attacks against the government of Albania, a NATO ally. Allies moved quickly to provide incident response support and political support in Tirana, to our ally in Tirana. But the reality is that we were not as nimble as we could have been in providing this direct, technical, necessary support. I will note, however, that our support was historic. NATO's ability to provide political attribution, a very political decision, to note the support of NATO for a country under a significant cyber attack was historic, as it reinforced international cyber norms about one country attacking another in cyberspace and represented NATO's support. We must be more nimble as an alliance, however, in providing direct, technical, and necessary support if a country faces a significant destructive attack. And today, we take a step towards making this commitment a reality. I look forward to discussion with our allies about how we most effectively posture ourselves to work together and deliver swift support across the alliance, under our own national powers, to our allies when they are victims of cyber attacks. This new concept has the power to do just that, and today we will discuss how to operationalize this approach and the important next steps allies will be taking to offer capabilities that can potentially be leveraged. The Cyber Defense Pledge doesn't just commit us to working together as NATO on cyber threats, but also reaffirms our national responsibilities to enhance the cybersecurity of our critical infrastructure sectors. Critical infrastructure that is not only interconnected with each other, but that NATO relies on, NATO forces rely on for training and readiness. This is why our discussion this morning and this afternoon is so critical. We must each be posturing ourselves to be harder targets for our adversaries. At this point, many of us have experienced a significant cyber attack on our country's critical infrastructure. And we have learned lessons we seek to share as we seek to strengthen ourselves and build longer-term defense across our sectors. We can each and all learn from each other. So I thank everyone for being here today. It is truly a formidable show of NATO leadership, of NATO cyber technical knowledge, and I look forward to accomplishing much together in our discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy National Security Advisor and Deputy Minister Cirelli again for really setting the tone for today's work. Secretary General, welcome to Rome. It's great to have you here, and we're really eager to listen to your keynote address. So we have been discussing the threat assessments masterfully delivered already by Major General Broads. We had a very interesting discussion, but now we're really eager to listen to you. So I give you the floor without further ado. It's up to you to decide whether you want to deliver this from the chair or you want to come to the podium. Great.
Thank you so much, and thank you for welcoming me here to Rome. It's great to be back. Ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to this year's Cyber Defense Pledge Conference. I'm really delighted to be here together with all of you, and I thank the hosts, Italy and the United States, for their hospitality today. This year, Euro-Atlantic security has been rocked by President Putin's war against democratic sovereign Ukraine. Just yesterday, I met with Ukrainian troops being trained in the United Kingdom. Brave young Ukrainians who have volunteered to defend their own country. Ukraine has driven back Russia's invasion through the tenacity of its people and the support of NATO allies. We will keep supporting Ukraine for as long as it takes. Part of Russia's aggression is an invisible war in cyberspace. In the hours immediately before Russian forces crossed the border, cyber attacks struck Ukrainian government departments, the military and emergency services. The Viasat satellite network was forced offline, cutting communications for Ukraine's police, military and intelligence services. This attack caused collateral damage beyond Ukraine, affecting wind turbines and interrupting internet access for tens of thousands of people across Europe. Since then, attacks have continued. Data wiping attacks have targeted Ukraine's government, commercial and energy sectors. And the cyber attack on the railway system tried to disrupt not only the transport of military supplies to the front, but also the evacuation of Ukrainian citizens. They tried, but they failed. They failed because Ukraine has proven to be a formidable opponent and because of NATO's strong support. We have been working to strengthen Ukraine's cyber defenses for years, with training and information and intelligence sharing. For example, Ukraine has access to NATO's malware information sharing platform, where experts exchange information about threats and responses in real time. Cyber is constantly a contested space, and the line between peace, crisis, and conflict is blurred. That is why NATO has taken the threat to cyberspace from state and non-state actors so seriously for so long, and why we have taken determined steps to guard against cyber attacks. It is key to our collective defense. Cyber activities can trigger our collective defense clause, Article 5, the bedrock of our collective defense, where an attack on one ally is an attack on all allies. Cyber is now a domain of operations equal to those of land, sea, air and space. And a number of allies have offered the use of the national cyber effects. Through NATO's Cyber Defense Pledge, allies have increased their investments in cyber and enhanced their skills and capabilities to implement their national strategies. NATO also conducts regular exercises, including our flagship cyber coalition exercise in Estonia later this month, the biggest exercise in the world. where more than 40 allies and partners will practice defending against a broad range of different cyber attacks. Our hosts, Italy and the United States, are both excellent examples of strong cyber defenses. Earlier this year, President Biden signed legislation to track cyber attacks and ransomware payments across America, so authorities can rapidly deploy resources to help those being attacked, spot trends, and warn other potential victims. And in May, Italy published its new national cybersecurity strategy, accompanied by several different initiatives, such as the establishment of the National Cybersecurity Agency and the development of the Italian cloud strategy. Examples of how allies take this very seriously. These and many similar initiatives across the whole alliance are making our nations stronger and more resilient to cyber attacks. NATO is a unique platform where allies share information, highlight concerns, exchange best practices, and consider our collective responses. In September, the North Atlantic Council strongly condemned the recent cyber attack on Albania's national information infrastructure, while NATO staff went to Tirana and provided support. Albania and other allies attributed this attack to Iran. This is an example of how NATO allies are coming together and responding with one voice. NATO also works closely with the European Union on cyber issues. Our cyber defenders share information about cyber threats and take part in each other exercises, including NATO's cyber coalition. We also work closely with partner nations such as Ukraine and Georgia, with our Indo-Pacific partners Japan, South Korea, Australia and New Zealand. And we also work closely with private companies which have played a key role in defending Ukrainian cyberspace. Starlink satellites enable secure communications and internet access. Microsoft and Amazon were able to upload Ukraine's government ministries to the cloud just as its servers were being targeted by Russian shelling. YouTube and social media companies have blocked or restricted Russian state media and troll accounts. Cooperation between governments and tech companies has increased significantly. For instance, NATO and Microsoft exchange information to mitigate the effects of malware attacks on allies and on Ukraine. And we agreed at the Madrid summit in June to take our partnership with industry further, expanding our cooperation to develop online standards and norms of behavior. Cyberspace should not be a Wild West, free for all. All allies agree that fundamental rights and international law apply just as much online as they do offline, and that we need principles of responsible use that reflect our democratic values and human rights. However, our competitors do not share our values and are using new technologies with no regard for human rights or international law. In 1949, President Truman described NATO as a shield against aggression and the fear of aggression. Today, that shield extends to cyberspace. The threat from cyberspace is real and it is growing. That is why our cyber defense pledge is so important. So I call on allies to recommit to cyber defense with more investment, more expertise, and enhanced cooperation. This is a vital part of our collective defense, and we are all in this together. So I wish you all the best for your discussions today. Your work here matters for the safety and the security of our 1 billion citizens across Europe and North America. So once again, thank you so much for having me here today. Thank you.